Hello dear students, this is Ikhlaq sir, Physics 2 Track Resonance class number 12. So we are going to start electrostatics. ठीक है ना बेटा? So our first part of the electrostatics is electrostatic first. ठीक है ना बेटा? The topic number first of the electrostatics actually electric charge. I am going to skip that. I will start with the Coulomb. Later on we'll be back to electric charge. ठीक है ना बेटा? वो उतना important नहीं है. The reason is that there are some students inside the classroom in the batch second particularly who have joined off late and they have missed the first classes and right now you know that we are dealing with the superposition principle उसमें तो हमें Coulomb's law लगता है. That's why I am going to revise this Coulomb's law for those students in particular. ठीक है बेटा? Okay, so you concentrate on this. So here we are. Our first topic is Coulomb's law. ठीक है ना बेटा? The point number first is this. It was given by the August Coulomb in 1785 and the point number second is important and that's like this. It gives the electrostatic force between two point charges at rest. ठीक है बेटा? So there must be two conditions which are to be satisfied. Only then you can use the Coulomb's law. Condition number one is that there must be 2 point charges, and condition number second is that the point charges must be at rest. Only then you can calculate the electrostatic force between the 2 point charges. Okay? If these 2 point charges are in motion, then in that very case there is indeed electrostatic force between them. But in addition to electrostatic force, there is one more force, and that's magnetic. Later on we'll be doing with that. We'll be dealing with that later on in the magnetism chapter. ठीक है ना बेटा? So right now electrostatics. तो यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. Okay? So let's discuss this Coulomb's law in detail, in length and breadth. Okay? We'll go into the second of this, from the second to the flesh of this. यहाँ ध्यान रखिए बेटा. Okay? So we are starting with what? With the Coulomb's law. So I'm going to do what? I am going to draw here the 2 point charges. So this here 1 point charge. For example, its charge is Q1. ठीक है ना बेटा? 1 point charge. And then here we have this another point charge, and this point charge is equal to Q2. All right. So we have 2 point charges Q1 and Q2. Okay. The 2 point charges are separated by a distance. And let me label that as R. Let me name that as R. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. Now there are how many point charges? 2 point charges Q1 and Q2 separated by distance. And what is that distance? That's equal to R. All right. Then you know very basic thing from the class 10th, and that is if the charges are like, they will repel. If the charges are unlike, they will attract. Wait a moment. So then you know from the basics that if the charges are like for example positive will repel the positive and negative will repel the negative, isn't it? And then what you know is that if they are positive and negative, they will attract, isn't it? Okay, so let's suppose that these are 2 point charges, and these 2 point charges are what they are. They are, for example, let's suppose that they are positive charges, so obviously they will repel like this. So this is the force F, and this force is here F. Okay, all right. This force is the F on the Q1 and this force is the F on the Q2. Clear or not? Their magnitude will be exactly same. Their direction will be different. Taken up because the Newton, this Coulomb's law obeys the Newton's third law of motion. All right. Okay. Now here we are. ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So this is our force F. ठीक है ना बेटा? This is our force F. This is the electrostatic force between the Q1 and Q2. Now this electrostatic force depends on 2 parameters. Parameter number 1, it does depend upon the charges. Does depend upon the magnitude of the charges. Like this. It is directly proportional to Q1 and Q2. That means it is directly proportional to the product of the charges. ठीक है ना बेटा? Now what we mean by directly proportional? That's a very basic thing that simply implies that जितना ज़्यादा charge होगा तो उतना ज़्यादा force होगा, isn't it? We'll not discuss that again and again. Okay? The next what we have is this: the electrostatic force between these 2 point charges is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. ठीक है ना बेटा? While square of distance means that if you double the distance between the 2 point charges, the force will become 1/4 times. If you made the distance 3 times, increase the distance 3 times, the force will become F/9, so on and so forth. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. Now force is directly proportional to Q1, Q2. Force is inversely proportional 1/r square. Sorry, inversely proportional r square, or it's proportional 1 divided by r square. Now combining the two equations, first equation and second equation. The equation we have is this: F is proportional to Q1 into Q2 divided by r square. All right. So F is proportional to Q1, Q2 divided by r square. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is this. Obviously, this proportionality sign, it will be replaced by what? ये replace हो जाएगा बेटा एक constant से, and the constant is called constant of proportionality. And here in the Coulomb's law, that constant is called as electrostatic constant. Okay. So this is what I will write down. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. F is equal to small k here, with the constant of proportionality called as electrostatic constant, multiplied by this Q1, and what about this? Then this is Q2 and then R square. ठीक है ना बेटा? While in this K, what is this K called as? This K is called as electrostatic constant. So let me write it here. This K is called as electrostatic constant. This K is called as electrostatic constant. ठीक है ना बेटा? Electrostatic constant. electrostatic constant. Like in the gravitation, we have gravitational constant, universal gravitational constant. So in the electrostatics, we have this electrostatic constant. Now I label this as equation number first. In principle, this is the Coulomb's law. So this is actually Coulomb's law. Okay, this is the what? This is K multiplied by Q1 Q2 divided by R square. But this K is called as what? It's a constant of proportionality and it's called electrostatic constant. ठीक है ना बेटा? तो यहाँ तक आपको तो अच्छी तरह से समझ में आया होगा क्योंकि इसमें कुछ रॉकेट साइंस है नहीं. ओके, सिंपल टू इक्वेशंस है बेटा. F is proportional Q1 Q2. F is proportional 1 by R square. F is proportional Q1 Q2 divided by R square. Proportionality sign will be replaced by a constant of proportionality and that's called electrostatic constant multiplied by Q1 Q2 divided by R square. That's it. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. Now let's move forward. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. तो next हम क्या करेंगे बेटा? We'll be having a discussion on this. So here we are. This F is equal to किसके बराबर है बेटा? K multiplied by Q1 into Q2 divided by R square and this is our equation number first. All right. Now we'll be discussing this electrostatic constant in detail. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. So here we have electrostatic constant. अब जो इसका value है ना बेटा value. So here I will write down this K जो है बेटा इसका value. Its value depends on value of K depends on two factors. Value depends on two factors. ठीक है ना बेटा? कौन सा factor है बेटा? It depends on two factors like this A and B. It depends on two factors. ठीक है बेटा? And the factor number A we have is that it depends on system of units. So its value depends upon system of units. System of units. ठीक है ना बेटा? What we mean by system of units? You obviously know that there are two systems of units, isn't it? There is SI system and there is CGS system. ठीक है ना बेटा? For example, if we take the SI system, then there is one value of the K. If we take CGS system, then there is another value of K. ठीक है ना बेटा? Its value also depends upon the nature of medium between Q1 and Q2. Nature of medium. It also depends upon nature of medium. ठीक है ना बेटा? There's a difference between the electrostatic force and the gravitational force. And this is the important difference, that is the gravitational force does not depend upon the medium separating the two masses, but the electrostatic force does depend upon the medium separating the two masses. So here this K takes care of that, the nature of the medium. ठीक है ना बेटा? तो K किस पर डिपेंड करता है बेटा? Number one, it depends upon the system of units. That means now there are two types of system of units, SI oblique CGS. S implies SI, C implies CGS. ठीक है ना बेटा? And its value also depends on nature of medium. And in general, all the media are classified into two categories. One we call as in general vacuum or the free space vacuum, and second is called rest of the medium. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay, all other media except apart from the vacuum. So here I will write down V oblique M. ठीक है ना बेटा? Where V is what? V is the vacuum and M stands for medium. Any other medium other than the vacuum. ठीक है ना बेटा? तो यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. Okay. So obviously, how many values will be there for the K? Obviously, there will be 4 values. ठीक है ना बेटा? Because there are 4 permutations and combinations. ठीक है बेटा? So possibility number 1 can be like this: the system of units you are choosing can be SI, and then the vacuum is separating the 2 point charges. Then second combination, second possibility is this: that the system of units you are using is SI, and in the material medium separating the 2 point charges. Then the CGS and the vacuum, CGS and the medium. ठीक है ना बेटा? 4 combinations: SI medium, SI vacuum, CGS medium, CGS vacuum. So accordingly, how many values of K are there? 4 different values of K. So how many equations for the Coulomb's law? Obviously 4 different equations for the Coulomb's law. Alright. So let's write down one by one what's the value of the K. First of all, you will have to have a look on this. What's the value of the K? Later on, there are some basic terminologies, some basic terms, technical terms are there. I'll be explaining them one by one. ठीक है बेटा? So let's go. Let's see what's the value of the K. तो यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So what is the value of K? So here I will write it down. There are how many values of K? There are 4 different values of K. ठीक है ना बेटा? There are 4 different values of K. Okay. So let me write it down here. This K, it has 4 different values. Okay. It has how many different values? 4 different values. ठीक है ना बेटा? So value number, first of all, its value is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught epsilon r. What is this epsilon naught? What is this epsilon r? I am going to explain it to you later on. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. So this is the value of the K. Then the system of units used is SI and material medium, and any other material medium other than the vacuum is separating the 2 point charges. Then the value of the K is equal to this. ठीक है बेटा? Its value is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. किसके बराबर है बेटा? Its value is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught when the system of units you choose is SI and vacuum is separating the 2 point charges. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay, vacuum is separating the 2 point charges. ठीक? Okay, next it is like this: 1 divided by capital K, and there's a difference between the small k and capital K. Small k is electrostatic constant, This capital K is called as dielectric constant. Later on we'll be explaining this as well. What's the meaning of dielectric constant? How we define dielectric constant in medium? Okay. So this is true when the system of units is CGS, and when any other material medium is separating the 2 point charges. ठीक है बेटा? Any other material medium is separating the 2 point charges. Then its value is simply equal to 1 if the system of units is CGS and the vacuum is separating the 2 point charges. All right, ठीक है ना बेटा? So there are obviously 4 different combinations and hence 4 different values. 4 different combinations are like this: medium SI, SI medium, SI vacuum, CGS medium, and CGS vacuum. So how many values are there? 4 different. 1 by 4 by epsilon naught, 1 by 4 by epsilon naught, 1 by capital K, and 1. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. Now I think this is clear to you. So you tell me how many equations I will write for the Coulomb's law. बोलो बेटा. Obviously I will write down how many equations? 4 different equations for the Coulomb's law, isn't it? So let me write down the 4 different equations for the Coulomb's law. Okay. So here they follow. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So equation number first is like this: Fm किसके बराबर होगा बेटा? Where m stands for material medium. This is the equation when there are 2 point charges separated with the medium. Its value is equal to, this equation will becomes 1 by 4 by epsilon naught epsilon r, ठीक है ना बेटा, multiplied by product of charges. What's that? Q1 Q2 divided by r square. This is our equation number second. ठीक है ना बेटा? And this equation number second is true when the system of units you use is SI and there is some material medium that is separating the 2 point charges. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. The next equation मैं ये लिखूंगा बेटा. Next equation I will write like this. I will write down here F naught. F naught is equal to what? It's equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. ठीक है ना बेटा? Q1 Q2 divided by r square. So this is our equation number next. Q1 Q2 divided by r square. ठीक है ना बेटा? This is our equation number 3. And this equation is true when the system of units you use is SI and vacuum is separating the 2 point charges. ठीक है ना बेटा? Then there's one more equation that's like this. That's Fm. M stands again for the medium. Okay. That's equal to 1 divided by capital K. 1 divided by capital K multiplied by product of charges. What is that? Q1 Q2 divided by the distance square, that will be called r square. ठीक है बेटा? And this is our equation number 4, isn't it? So this is our equation number 4, and this is true when the system of units is what? That is CGS. CGS is the system of units and some material medium is separating the 2 point charges. ठीक है बेटा? Some material medium is separating the 2 point charges. Then we have the fourth equation, last equation F naught. That's simply 1 multiplied by Q1 into Q2 divided by r square. All right. So this is our equation number 5. ठीक है ना बेटा? This is our equation number 5, and this is true when the system of units you use is CGS and some vacuum is separating the 2 material particles. All right. ठीक है बेटा? So again, let's move back here. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So this was our equation number first. This is the generalized equation for the Coulomb's law. F is equal to K multiplied by product of charges divided by distance square, where K is called constant of proportionality, called as electrostatic constant. Okay, how many factors this K value depends? It depends on 2 factors. Number 1, the system of the units, and number 2, it also depends on the medium separating the 2 point charges. All right. Okay. Now how many combinations are there? 4 different combinations. Number 1 is system of number 1 is that there's material medium, SI oblique medium, SI oblique vacuum, CGS oblique medium, and CGS and the vacuum. So how many these values of the K are there? Exactly 4 different values of the K. ठीक है ना बेटा? तो वो हमने यहाँ पर लिखे बेटा. These are the 4 different values of the K. 1 by 4 by epsilon naught, then 1 by 4 by epsilon naught, then 1 by capital K, then 1. ठीक है ना बेटा? 4 different values. Okay, in SI. Later on I will give the nomenclature of this epsilon naught. Number 1. Number 2, we'll explain what we mean by epsilon naught, what we mean by dielectric constant. We'll write down one by one what are the values of this, all these. We'll write down their dimensions and units. You don't panic about that. So concentrate here. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So these are the 4 different equations for the Coulomb's law, isn't it? 4 different equations. Now among the 4 different equations, this equation number 3 जो ये बेटा ये वाली equation है बेटा, this is the most important equation. Why this is most important equation? The reason is that when we'll be doing the problems, when we'll be solving the problems, in 99.9% of the problems we'll be using SI system as the system of the units. Number 1. And number 2 is that in almost all these problems we'll be assuming that there is vacuum which is separating the 2 point charges. All right. So that's why this equation, जो ये equation है बेटा, this one. So this becomes our most important equation. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. अब next क्या है बेटा? Next इसके बाद है क्या बेटा? Next what I will do is this. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So next it's like this. You just concentrate on this. Next एक छोटा सा topic है बेटा. That's like this. Define. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. Define relative permittivity and dielectric constant. Define relative permittivity and dielectric constant, and prove that what we have to prove is this. Prove that this relative permittivity is equal to dielectric constant. ठीक है ना बेटा? बोर्ड एग्जाम में आपके आते हैं बेटा. Okay, this question every now and then this is asked in the board exams. Okay, so you concentrate on this. छोटा सा क्वेश्चन है बेटा, उतना ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट है नहीं, लेकिन इसके लिए आपको ध्यान देना पड़ेगा बेटा इस इन इक्वेशंस पर. So there are how many equations? There are 4 different equations. 1, 2, 3 and 4, isn't it? What I will do is this, I will divide these two equations, then I will divide these two equations. ठीक है ना बेटा? तो यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So what I am going to do is this, I will divide this equation by this equation. So I will divide, what I will do is this, I will divide the 3 equation by the 4 equation. So I will write like this, divide, or simply like this. So simply like this. So what I will write down is this, यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So I will write like this equation number 3. Equation number 3 divided by equation number 2. On one hand, I will write down equation number 3 divided by equation number 2. On other hand, I will write down equation number 5 divided by equation number 4. Divided by equation number 4. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. So equation number 3 अगर आपके पास है बेटा, that's f naught divided by fm. तो f naught किसके बराबर है बेटा? f naught है बेटा बराबर 1/4 pi epsilon naught multiplied by q1 into q2 divided by r square. ठीक है ना बेटा? Divided by fm किसके बराबर है बेटा? 1/4 pi epsilon naught into epsilon r multiplied by q1 multiplied by q2 divided by r square. ठीक है ना बेटा? समझ में आ रहा है ना बेटा? So simply it's quite obvious, q1 q2 by r square is going to cancel with the q1 q2 by r square. 1/4 by epsilon naught is going to cancel with the 1/4 by epsilon naught. तो बचेगा क्या बेटा? डिनोमिनेटर में बचेगा 1 by epsilon naught. So that means simply we have this equation that f naught divided by fm is equal to epsilon naught. That's equal to relative permittivity. ठीक है बेटा? That's equal to relative permittivity. Okay. Now for example, this is our equation number 6. ठीक है ना बेटा? Now from here you can easily define relative permittivity. Let's first of all define dielectric constant, then we'll be back to relative permittivity as well. Okay. Next, what we have to do is this equation number 5 divided by equation number 4. So again, it's like this: f naught divided by fm. ठीक है ना बेटा? F naught divided by fm. Let's move back to that equation. यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So f naught divided by fm. We are going to divide these two equations. Okay? Equation number 5 divided by equation number 4. So let's divide these two equations. So f naught के बदले हम लिखेंगे क्या बेटा? It is simply equal to what? q1 multiplied by q2 divided by r square. ठीक है ना बेटा? Divided by fm के बदले क्या लिखेंगे बेटा? 1 by capital K multiplied by q1 multiplied by q2 divided by r square. ठीक है बेटा? Again, what will happen is that q1 q2 by r square will cancel with q1 q2 by r square. तो बचेगा क्या बेटा? डिनोमिनेटर में 1 by capital K. तो बेटा न्यूमरेटर में सीधे क्या आएगा बेटा? Simply capital K. ठीक है बेटा? So that means this f naught divided by fm is equal to dielectric constant which is capital K. ठीक है बेटा? Dielectric constant which is capital K. This is our equation number 7. ठीक है बेटा? Now I'm sure यहाँ तक आपको अच्छी तरह से समझ में आया होगा. I'm sure यहाँ तक अच्छी तरह से आपको समझ में आया होगा. बेटा क्विक रिव्यू यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So this why from we start from here coulombs, isn't it? Then this was our first f is proportion q1 q2 divided by r square. Then constant proportionality is k. Then the value of the k depends on how many factors. It obviously depends on how many factors. It depends on 2 factors. ठीक है ना बेटा? So it depends on 2 factors. Number 1, it depends on the system of units. Obviously, there are 2 different types of systems of units: SI, CGS. It depends on the nature of the medium. There are 2 media, obviously vacuum and a material medium. So there are 4 different permutations, combinations. Accordingly, there are 4 different values of the K. These are the 4 different values of the K. Okay, and SI medium, SI vacuum, CGS medium, and CGS vacuum. All right. Then next what we have is this. Fm is equal to this. Now there are 4 different equations for the Coulomb's law, isn't it? Fm F naught, Fm F naught. This is true. CGS in the SI, and when material medium separating the 2-point charge. This is true when the system of units is SI and some vacuum separating the 2-point charges. This is true when there is CGS system and some material medium, and this is true when there is some CGS system and vacuum is separating the 2-point charges. फिर मैंने आपको बोला बेटा जो ये equation number 2 है, ये वाली equation, this is the most important equation among all these equations. Why? What's the reason? The reason is that when we'll be solving the problems, we'll be assuming that the system of units is SI, and number 2 is that we'll be assuming that the vacuum is separating the 2-point charges. All right, ठीक है ना बेटा? I'm sure आपको अच्छी तरह से समझ में आया होगा बेटा. Next we have to define what relative permittivity and dielectric constant, and you have to prove that this relative permittivity is called dielectric constant. Now you can clearly see from the equation number 6 and 7. It's obvious from the equation number 6 and 7 that this relative permittivity is the ratio of the forces between 2 point charges separated by vacuum to the force between the same point charges separated by same distance but separated by some medium. ठीक है ना बेटा? And then dielectric constant is defined in the same way, exactly in the same fashion. So that means the definition of the dielectric constant and the relative permittivity is the same. And if you see the equation number 6 and 7, it's quite obvious, it's quite clear that this dielectric constant and relative permittivity, they are exactly the same thing. ठीक है ना बेटा? So this what I'm going to write down finally. Dielectric constant जो है आपके पास, that's equal to relative permittivity, and what's that equal to? That's simply equal to F naught divided by Fm, and that's it. That's it. ठीक है ना बेटा? Hence number 1 we have proved what dielectric constant relative permittivity, and obviously we have defined them by using this equation as well. All right. तो थोड़ा सा टॉपिक, छोटा सा टॉपिक है यहाँ पर बेटा, दैट्स यूनिट्स एंड डायमेंशंस ऑफ एप्सिलॉन नॉट एंड व्हाट्स द वैल्यू ऑफ एप्सिलॉन नॉट. ठीक है ना बेटा? ओके. तो यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा, कॉन्सेंट्रेट हियर, कॉन्सेंट्रेट. ओके, यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So there is a small topic, and that small topic is simply like this. What is the value of epsilon naught? Let's write down like this. Units and dimensions. Wait a moment. So let's write down it like this. ठीक है बेटा? Units and dimensions. Of A will be discussing the units and dimensions of epsilon naught. B will be discussing the units and dimensions of 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, because such questions are asked in the NEET and JEE. C will be discussing the units and dimensions of K oblique relative permittivity. ठीक है बेटा? One by one. Let's go one by one. Discuss the units and dimensions of epsilon naught. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. So first of all, what I will write down is epsilon naught. ठीक है बेटा? So let me start with the epsilon naught. Okay. Now, अगर आप epsilon naught लिखते हैं बेटा, so we can write down this equation that F naught is equal to 1 by, so A part here, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught multiplied by Q1 into Q2 divided by R square. ठीक है ना बेटा? आपको यूनिट्स एंड डायमेंशन किसके चाहिए बेटा? एप्सिलॉन नॉट के. Obviously epsilon naught you will write down here. तो किसके बराबर आएगा बेटा? 1 by 4 pi F naught. ठीक है ना बेटा? 1 by 4 pi F naught Q1 Q2 divided by R square. ठीक है बेटा? तेज रफ्तार से आप बोलेंगे बेटा, what is the unit of force? What is the SI unit of force? What is the SI unit of charge? What is the SI unit of distance? ठीक है बेटा? So it's obvious that the SI unit of charge is coulomb. ठीक है बेटा? So coulomb into coulomb is coulomb square. तो न्यूमरेटर में आएगा बेटा coulomb square divided by 4 pi is a constant which is unitless, dimensionless. F का बेटा यूनिट होता है न्यूटन, R का बेटा होता है मीटर. तो यहाँ आएगा बेटा मीटर स्क्वायर. ठीक है ना बेटा? Coulomb square per Newton per meter square. You can write it like this as well. Coulomb square per Newton per meter square. ठीक है बेटा? आपके AIPMT में बेटा ये क्वेश्चन आया है बेटा. This question has been directly as such asked in AIPMT 2004. ठीक है बेटा? AIPMT में बेटा ये क्वेश्चन आया है 04. ठीक है बेटा? This question directly as such asked what is the SI unit of epsilon naught? So simply Coulomb square per Newton per meter square. ठीक है बेटा? We are done with the SI unit of this what? Of the epsilon naught. ठीक है बेटा? Now next is what dimensional formula. तो इसी का dimensional formula लिखेंगे बेटा. Epsilon naught देखिए बेटा आप किसके बराबर हैं? Okay. First of all, you tell me what is the dimensional formula of the charge. Dimensional formula of charge is 80. Simply because of this equation. That is current is equal to charge by time. ठीक है ना बेटा? तो चार्ज किसके बराबर आएगा बेटा? करंट मल्टीप्लाइड बाय टाइम. सो करंट का डायमेंशनल फार्मूला होता है बेटा A1, टाइम का होता है बेटा T1. सो दैट मींस इट विल बी हियर A1 T1. तो क्या आएगा बेटा न्यूमरेटर में? A2 T2. ठीक है बेटा? द डायमेंशनल फार्मूला फोर्स, ये तो आपको पता होना चाहिए. डायमेंशनल फार्मूला ऑफ द फोर्स इज M1 L1 T-2. तो यहाँ क्या लिखेंगे बेटा? बोलो बेटा M1 L1 T-2. ठीक है ना बेटा? M1 L1 T-. ओके. All right. Then there is distance as well. तो इसका डायमेंशनल फार्मूला होगा बेटा L1, so it will be L2 for the R square. Clear to you? अब बेटा क्या आएगा ये? So what it will be? यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. It will be like this M1. So in the numerator it will be M minus 1. In the numerator it will be M minus 1. So stop. मतलब M minus 1. ठीक है ना बेटा? M minus 1. So this will be L1 L2. So what in the numerator what will be? L minus 3. ठीक है बेटा? L minus 2 तो आएगा बेटा क्या? T4. ठीक है ना बेटा? T4 and A2. Okay. ठीक है बेटा? So this is the dimensional formula of what? Epsilon naught. जो बेटा ये क्वेश्चन है ना बेटा, ये क्वेश्चन, this question has been asked in JEE Man 2013. तो यहाँ मैं लिखूंगा बेटा, this question has been asked in JEE Man 2013 as such that what is the dimensional formula. आप ये DPP sheet, अपने DPP sheet पे भी देख सकते हैं बेटा. That's the dimensional formula of the epsilon naught is simply m minus 1 l minus 3 t4 a2. Okay dear, ठीक है ना बेटा? So I'm sure आपको अच्छी तरह से यहाँ तक समझ में आया होगा. Okay, I'll be stopping here. But before I will stop, let me revise it in a moment. In a quick time, I will revise it. तो यहाँ ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. Okay. So this by from we started. Coulomb's law. ठीक है बेटा? तो ये तो आपको समझ में आया होगा that it gives the force between 2 point charge at rest. Okay. The next is that this is the Coulomb's the first equation. ठीक है बेटा, K multiplied by Q1 Q2 by R square. K is called electrostatic constant. ठीक है बेटा? Okay, that's great. So then the value of the K depends on how many factors? 2 factors. So naturally there are how many combinations? 4 different combinations. So how many values in the K are there? So obviously 4 different values like this. These are the 4 different values. Substitute all these 4 values in the equation number first. You will get the 4 different equations for the Coulomb's law. ठीक है ना बेटा? अब ये सारी equations तो याद आपको नहीं रखनी है. So what we'll have to memorize is this equation only. Okay. So that when we'll be solving the problems, you will see that in almost all the problems we'll be using just this equation that f naught is equal to 1 by 4 by epsilon naught q1 q2 divided by r square. ठीक है ना बेटा? Among all these equations. Now this is a set of equations of the Coulomb's law. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. So next is what? Next is this important question for your board exams only. ठीक है बेटा? That define relative permittivity and dielectric constant and prove that relative permittivity is equal to dielectric constant. For that, what I am going to do is this. I'm going to divide these two equations. ठीक है ना बेटा? So what I will do is this. I divide these two equations, then these two equations to get the value of what? To get the value of this dielectric constant of the relative permittivity. ठीक है ना बेटा? This and this will cancel. Then relative permittivity is called f naught divided by fm. Then here dielectric constant is also equal to f naught divided by fm. It's quite obvious that this f naught and fm they are same, and that's called dielectric constant. ठीक है ना बेटा? फिर एक छोटा सा टॉपिक है बेटा यहाँ पर, and that's units and dimensions of these. So we are done with this. Okay, so tomorrow we'll be discussing this 1 by 4 by epsilon naught. We'll be discussing the units and dimensions of dielectric constant, relative permittivity. We'll be doing a good number of examples on the Coulomb's law. There are some, if you see your DPP sheets, there are perhaps some 18 examples on the Coulomb's law. We'll be adding to that. We'll be doing some 10-15 examples here as well. Okay, ठीक है ना बेटा? So you do stay connected. लेकिन सिर्फ एक काम करना है बेटा. The team resonance is always here for you. It's always here for you. ठीक ना बेटा? जो भी आप क्लास में पढ़ोगे, we'll be revising that here. Okay, so that your preparation level for the NEET 23 that's compounded, that's made even better. ठीक ना बेटा? You'll have to concentrate on your exams, but the competitive exams. When I say exams, I mean competitive exams. I mean NEET and NEET 2023, and I mean JEE Man or JEE Advanced 2023. ठीक है ना बेटा? So best of luck to all of you. So stay connected.